Good morning again to all of you, and thank you for joining this third panel. It's actually a cascade today of a great discussion, and we have another amazing panel on the evolution of the Arab financial markets, where we'll be talking about the potential of pan-regional cross-border payments in the region and, of course, beyond. We are going to talk about financial market infrastructure and the role of technology. Before we dive into the panel discussion and presentations, I would like to make a brief introduction that set actually the scene for the discussion ahead. You know, all and actually the economic and financial trends in the Arab region point toward an acceleration of payment flow, with cross-border payments among Arab countries forecasted to increase to 6.9 million transactions in 2021, generating actually a total value of 3.4 trillion US dollar. So this trend is expected to continue due to the multiple multilateral and domestic policy initiatives aiming at enhancing the intra-Arab economic and growth. So in this context, the national authorities of many Arab countries, especially the central banks, have begun to consider the case for the integration of payment system within the Arab region. Based and according to this trend and this readiness and willingness of the central banks and policymakers in the Arab region, the IMF, under the leadership and support of the Council of Arab Central Bank Governors, launched the Buna payment platform to provide the region with a solution that foster actually cross-border payments. So before this project started, several payments system initiatives have been launched also many years back in the region, including the Arab Payment Initiative, as well as the establishment of the Arab Committee on Payment and Settlement System, who played actually a key role in establishing Buna payment platform. So today's panel comes rightly to discuss these trends and prospects to move even faster in making payment system and technology work better for the region. I'm really lucky to moderate this discussion with such inspiring speakers coming from different angles, as you will see later on of the topic. And let me start with my first panelist, Mehdi Mana, who is the CEO of Buna. Actually, Mehdi is an outstanding expert in financial market infrastructure from regulators and private sector perspective. Mehdi, prior to join Buna, served as the Deputy Director General of the Market Infrastructure and Payment System at the European Central Bank, dealing with several great and important projects at the European Union, including managing the Target 2 Security Program. Prior to this as well, Mehdi has a great career and had various managerial positions and advisory role in the private sector. So today, Mehdi, he will tell us a bit more about those different trends in cross-border payments in the region. And of course, he will give us some prospects ahead and what actually Buna is doing in improving those flows, particularly in line with the G20 agenda. So without further delay, I will leave it to Mehdi to start with the first presentation.
Thank you very much, Habib, for a very kind presentation, introduction. I'm very happy to be with you today, and please allow me to share my screen for a short presentation on Buna. Just 1 second. Yes, I hope you all see it. So a few slides just to share with you the story of Buna and where we stand today. Buna is a centralized cross-border and cross-currency payment system. As you rightly said, it has been initiated by the Council of Arab Central Bank Governor, and it has very clear objectives. These objectives are to empower the Arab economies, to strengthen regional integration by promoting regional currencies, among others, and to streamline trade relationship not only between the Arab countries, but also between the Arab countries and their main trade partners. and also as a part of this objective to enhance and to reinforce financial inclusion in the region. These objectives are very clear and very important to us. And it's good to have important objectives, but it's also good to translate them into something tangible, and it's even better to deliver these objectives. What we have done to ensure that is, first of all, to make sure that Buna is delivered by building on providing concrete and tangible values to our participant, and not only to our participant, but also to the end users, meaning to the customers of our participant. The key source, one of the key source of inefficiencies and source of additional cost for the financial industry is the fact that they have to face multiple channels to develop their business. Buna is eliminating that by one single access in terms of technical access, by one single contractual arrangement, one single account setup. There is a single window to access to a broad range of services in multiple countries and in multi-currencies. Another source of issues, inefficiencies, and additional costs is the time that processing payment takes today. It takes multiple days in most of the cases, and this, in addition to the inefficiencies, it results in additional cost because it requires monitoring, because it requires managing the risk during the time of processing of the payment, and it's optimum. Buna again provides a very concrete response and tangible value to the users by providing real-time settlement with immediate finality and revocability. We ensure that because we have a very solid legal basis to deliver this finality, and because we eliminate the credit risk and the currency exchange risk from the system and from the settlement process totally. One important aspect to highlight as well is the fact that payment is, after all, an industry of network, and the broader the network is, the higher the value is for the participant. Buna here as well aim and is actually delivering a very large network of participation, thanks to the value that we deliver to our users, and also thanks to the very active support from the central banks to incentivize the financial community of joining Buna and making intensive use of it. More directly relating to the cost, the Buna charges. The Buna charges are inclusive of all side costs, and they are fully transparent. We do not include any recurring or any upfront costs. We have adopted a total pay-as-you-go model that eliminate any intermediary fees, that eliminate any additional fees or costs that comes on the top. And in addition to that, we have made these fees as low as possible to be very competitive and very efficient in terms of cost management for our users. When it comes to the network is not just about the participant, it's also about the currencies and the market access. And here again, in Buna, we have targeted something large in terms of currencies with a multi-currency support and also a combination of Arab and international currency. Last but not least, once again, this relates not only to safety and legal aspect, but also to cost element. We know the cost of compliance, and we know in particular the cost of non-compliance. Buna provides very tangible answer to that by having a very solid framework to embed compliance in the system itself. Actually, in addition to having very strict eligibility criteria, we have gone beyond what is the tradition of a payment system, and we have decided to do that step of embedding the compliance check in the system itself. Here again, to make sure that our environment is as safe and as solid as possible for all our participants. if we take a more broader aspect and taking or assessing Buna from a more global view, Buna is actually fully in line with the G20 agenda to enhance cross-border payment. This very important work has started last year with the Saudi presidency. It is continuing today with the Italian presidency, and we know already that the Indonesian presidency is also very motivated to continue putting a lot of incentive on this very important work. Buna has provided clear responses to the issue that this work has identified. The issues are connected to the high cost of processing cross-border payment, the low speed, and the lack of transparency and access. Buna enhancing is all that with its model as a centralized platform managing multiple channels, multiple countries, and also in its adoption of standard and intentional practices that will makes it very open to interact and to interoperate with other solutions from everywhere around the globe. So we reduce the cost, we increase the speed and the transparency in addition to the access as well. Actually, what Buna does is to make cross-border payment as efficient, as seamless, as fast and less costly as domestic payment. And if you go to the details of the G20 agenda, the CPMI has actually identified 5 focus areas that are themselves divided into 19 building blocks. And as a matter of fact, Buna has a very powerful model that is allowing it to tick all these boxes together. I've been speaking about making something concrete out of it, but also delivering. Buna is being delivered. You refer to the decision of the Council of Arab Central Bank and Monetary Authority Governors. Actually, it was not that long ago. It was in 2017. 4 years later, all the components of Buna have been delivered. The legal entity is fully established. It has gone through different steps, but the final one was the issuance of the federal decree earlier this year. We thank very strongly the authorities of the host country that have made this possible and facilitated the establishment of this legal entity as a supranational organization benefiting from all the legal foundation that it needs to deliver its business in a safe and solid way. When it comes to the technical aspect, the platform as well has been fully up and running since February last year. Actually, we had a deployment strategy in 3 steps: platform first, currency second, participant third. In terms of currency, since the launch of the platform, we have now reached the number of 6 already with the combination of Arab international currencies. For the Arab currencies, we have the Emirati dirham, the Egyptian pound, the Saudi riyal, and the Jordanian dinar. And for the international currencies, we have the US dollar and the euro. These 6 currencies together represent almost 100% of what we see today in terms of cross-border payment in the region. Despite that fact, we'll be very happy continuing the promotion of additional currency in the Buna system, and that should come hopefully in the upcoming months. When it comes to the participant as well, the network is building up. Today, the Buna team is in contact with more than 170 banks from different countries. Already 120 of them are in different stages of the onboarding process. And out of these 120, 45, more than 45 actually, have already signed the participation agreement. And we see, thanks to the intensive effort of the central banks that I mentioned earlier, that this trend is continuously increasing, and the speed of onboarding in the recent weeks has been much faster than what we have seen until now. So we expect this number to grow very fast between now and the end of this year. Finally, on the side of partnership, because delivering this type of solutions and having this cross-border ambition require very solid partnership of different nature, and a lot has been achieved on that angle as well, with different stages of implementation. In certain cases, we have already agreement in place. In other situation, we are at MOU stage, and in other cases, we are at an early discussion stage. But we see that when we have the right motivation and the right understanding from the two sides, things can go very fast, thankfully. So I'm mentioning there only a few cases and few examples, but many are already in the pipeline, and some of them have already been publicly announced. My last slide for today regarding the potential of Buna, because as I said from the beginning, there was high expectation, and we were aware that Buna would have very high potential in terms of not only providing something tangible in the region, but also in acting as a single gateway, a single bridge between the region and the main trade partners, in terms also in supporting innovation, in supporting integration, not only for the payment industry, but also for the capital market, for the financing of trade, and for enhancing the compliance level in the region, and many other aspects. The good news here as well is that we are delivering on all these fronts, and you see that in each and every aspect that we had as an ambition, we have already something tangible, thanks to what Buna is delivering itself, and thanks to what we are discussing with the different partnerships. For the compliance, for example, so in addition to the tools that Buna has embedded in its solution, we have already agreement in place for the provision of data with Refinitiv, in place with Elucidate to provide scoring of the different participants in terms of in terms of compliance, in terms of acting as a gateway with other regions. We have already concrete discussions with Asia, and interest expressed by SIPs from China, and PCI from India, and the State Bank of Pakistan, others as well. But again, this is not aiming at being exhaustive at this stage. With Africa, we have also discussion ongoing. Capital market, Euroclear will be following with Bernard speaking later, but we have already tangible discussion on what could be achieved together to deliver integrated capital market in the region. The same apply to the collaboration with our colleagues from the Arab Trade Financing program to enhance and integrate further trade financing and also harmonize it in the region. Many of these actors are collaborating on multiple fronts. So starting from our mother organization, the Arab Monetary Funds, is supporting us in almost all these aspects. The colleagues from the World Bank as well are contributing to all this. What is sure is that Buna necessitate and contribute to that. So, and the fact that we have this dynamic at global level is makes this solution again even more powerful and tangible. Today is a lot about innovation, and on that aspect as well, Buna is doing a lot. We have concrete achievement. We have an agreement with SWIFT in terms of use of standard, in terms of delivery of instant payment in complement to the Buna solution itself. We have recently announced a successful experiment with Banca d'Italia and the TIPS, the target instant payment settlement, which has resulted in connecting the two platforms and processing instant payment between the two platforms, two regions, cross-currency and cross-border in less than 15 seconds, which is really a very important result. Finally, Buna, it's important that we stand ready to support CBDC implementation. So there is a need certainly for further action from certain partners and from the central bank possibly as well. But Buna would be ready to support and make good use of any CBDC that is being issued to further enhance the cross-border payment. And finally, in terms of fintech in general here as well, solutions like Buna will be there to act as a fintech hub in providing an environment that fertilize innovation and allow fintech to develop value-added services to support further the bank and their service offering. Here again, in full support with our colleagues from the Arab Monetary Fund. And finally, because also it's the theme of today, when it comes to instant payment. So in addition to the fact that Buna has itself developed an instant payment solution, we aim, thanks to that solution, to also act as a possible hub between the different national solution. And there as well, we have initiated already tangible discussions with some partners and some very close colleagues. From two of them are in the session with us today, Benefits and Jopak in particular, but others will follow very soon, I hope. And thank you very much for your attention. So I reached the end of my presentation, but would be happy to come back in case there are questions.
Thank you so much, Mehdi, for this great presentation. Actually, your last slide facilitates me the transition to the next speaker. Actually, as you said, Buna is providing the core payment, cross-border payment system, but there is, as you mentioned in your last slide, plenty of other additional services that Buna is going to provide to consumers and to market participants. And one of them is actually the securities and the ongoing partnership we have with Euroclear. So I'm very pleased to introduce to my second panelist, Bernard Ferrand, who will be actually talking about this ongoing partnership between Buna and Euroclear and the opportunities we are exploring with the Euroclear to create an integrated Arab financial market, of course, building on the latest technology. Actually, Bernard is a general manager for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa at the Euroclear Bank. He's in charge of the business development activities across his region, where he supervises a large team of account and relationship managers located in London, Paris, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, Brussels, and Dubai. He also acts as a chief representative officer for the Euroclear Bank office in Dubai. Mehdi, so we heard a lot from Mehdi, who took us through the recent trends in cross-border, what Buna is offering to support and streamline remittances, retail interbank cross-border transfers. Actually, what we do believe that the next phase for Buna is to add the securities and collateral management legs into the core platform and so empower the cross-country investment and also facilitate global investors to enter into the Arab market. So Bernard, very briefly, we are running out of the time in less than 10 minutes. Can you share with us your views on such extension and how technology can make it happen and convenient? So Bernard, over to you in less than 10 minutes, please. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you, Habib, and thank you, Mehdi, for the introduction, because indeed, I think it comes as a right sequence. First, you need the cash, and then you can potentially put the securities leg, because a security house like Euroclear, which is a financial market infrastructure as well, like Buna, as the Arabic name mentioned, it is an infrastructure. So I think very similar to what happened in Europe. In Europe, you know, even if it's different objectives and different setups, etc., but in Europe, you had a European target 2 for cash. And then after that, Mehdi was very involved when he was at the European Central Bank. He built up the second layer, which is the target 2 for securities. So here we were brainstorming with the Arab monetary funds, but with Buna overall, just to see, I mean, what is the need in the region to be able to have a better integration of the capital market activity, i.e. the securities leg that could actually come on top of what Buna is offering today. So we've been brainstorming, we've been exchanging a lot, and I think we came out to the conclusion that after this first cash layer, it will be good to build the securities leg. And I'm very, very honored that Euroclear has been appointed as a partner of choice for this project. So briefly, but very briefly, Euroclear is actually servicing $40 trillion of assets from different clients across the globe. We do settlement, which is the equivalent of $3 trillion US dollar on a daily basis, and in 55 different currencies. So the aspect here that is very attractive for the region is the multi-currency, like Buna is a multi-currency platform, but it's also the fact that we have a strong and resilient system, making sure that all the clients that are connected to the platform actually can operate in a very secure, safe, and environment. So the objective for us, I would say that basically it comes in two folds. The first one is to try to address a problem that we have identified out of the 22 Arab states, which is sometimes those Arab states, when they issue locally, it is very difficult for international players to come and invest into those countries. So you may have heard that Euroclear is also connected to the UAE. Euroclear will connect to Saudi and will connect to Egypt. But we thought that there is also a need for the remaining part that is not yet connected to the global ecosystem to be able to connect to a regional hub. Hence the idea of creating an Arab financial center. So it is not a financial center per se. It is more a marketplace, a new ecosystem, a regional hub, whereas the corporate issuers or even the sovereign issuers or the supranationals or even the government-related entities could easily use as a main entry point towards the pan-Arab marketplace and come and issue under that financial center. So the objective is to give a possibility for those that are isolated locally and those that don't have the capacity because they don't want, they are not in need to borrow such a high amount of dollars, Saudi Riyal, Egyptian pound, etc. But at least instead of structuring international Eurobonds, as we call, we want to put something in the middle between a domestic issuance and an international bonds, which could be a regional issuance, leveraging the Buna capability. Now, when we say that, of course, that comes with different thinking because we need to define what we will do in terms of pre-issuances. So the advantage here is that we're starting from a white page. Okay, so I think there's no legacy behind in terms of IT, so we can certainly leverage the DLT, for example, when it comes to the pre-issuances to make sure that basically we can digitize the whole workflow of creating the bonds and making sure that that bonds, when it is set up into the platform, can easily be distributed on the primary market. On the primary market. Now, after we will have to define what will be the ideal settlement timing. And I think the ambition is probably to propose going forward, maybe even a T0 or a T+1 or a T+2. So nothing will prevent us to do that. I think it is just a question of understanding what will be the best for the region, because let's bear in mind that whenever you're dealing in multi-currency, you always have 2 days to do the FX on the back of the transaction. So that's something that will have to be clearly understood and identified. We will define what will be the settlement currencies available. Mehdi mentioned 6 currencies already available in Buna. Those are heavily traded currencies, so that could be a very good start as well for issuing certain bonds. And we will integrate all the settlement and the custody features into a certain portal that the users could potentially have at their disposal just to ease all the operation on their side. So it is clearly building a new vision together with Buna, leveraging the best available technology still to be defined. It will be probably a mix of existing technology and a mix of new technology like the DLT, depending on the streams. And then I'm happy to take any questions later on that. But I think what we are saying is that yes, DLT is here. It is a big word, but it is probably not 100% tested yet within our industry, which is a securities industry. Although there's been some announcement recently from the American DTCC that say that they will do a settlement system in DLT. So to be seen if that's going to work. Let's not forget that our friends in Australia have tried over the last 6 years to deploy the DLT technology from the trading, the central counterpart, the central clearing, but also the cash system, but also the depository side, and that has still not been achieved. So I think here, starting from a white page is good, and we will certainly have to define what is the best for the users, but also for the markets. So that's what I wanted briefly to mention. Also, maybe just out of interest, I think if I have still 2 minutes of the time, Euroclear has been participating into a fully fledged DLT use case with the Banque de France. We've also included different intermediaries in the French market, like BNP, Crédit Agricole, Société Générale, HSBC, and together with the issuers, which was the sovereign issuer, so Agence France Trésor, we've managed to create a complete cycle under the blockchain technology. And that cycle included not only the issuances from Agence France Trésor, the primary distribution, secondary market operation, but also repurchase agreement repurchase transactions, so the repo transaction, cross-border with T2S platform, but also we have tested the full cycle in terms of income payment, etc. So everything has been done using the DLT technology for one transaction or for several transactions. But on the back of it, what was very interesting as well, it was we use as well the CBDC currency issued under Banque de France. And I think the next panel will discuss in more detail the CBDC, but it was certainly a full cycle that has been tested within a securities environment. And I think that is probably very reassuring that going forward, we could potentially deploy that kind of technology at a much larger scale, of course, to be seen and to be followed.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dana. Really promising what you are saying about this, let's say, the next step of Buna. In the same path of what Bernard was saying in terms of the perspective for Buna, for the security settlement system, and of course within what Mehdi said in his last slide about this, I would say, extended ecosystem where Buna would be working. Of course, another partnership is being discussed between Buna and one payment platform in the Arab region is actually the connectivity and the interoperability between Buna and the regional payment hub, which is JOPEC, actually the Jordan Payment and Clearing Company. So without further delay, I will move to my third panelist, Layana Al-Warqat, who is the Business Development Manager at JOPEC since 2018, and she's actually the project lead for the CLIC implementation, which is actually the project owned by by JOPEC, and as well as, of course, the JomoPay that has been launched many years back and now is upgrading to the ISO 222 in Jordan. Very quickly, Layama will brief us we'll be talking in particular about digital innovation and cross-border payment and interoperability and ongoing project with Buna. Layama, we have less than 25 minutes. Please try to keep your intervention in less than 10 minutes. Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's a pleasure being with all of you in here. Can we go to the next slide, please? So basically, just a brief description or a brief introduction about JOPEC. It's established back in 2017 as the legal successor of what used to be the National Payment Council. It's 45% owned by Central Bank of Jordan and 55% owned by all operating banks in the kingdom. JOPEC mainly owns and operates micro-retail payment systems, with a high-level goal of a comprehensive and innovative digital payment benefiting all, contributing, of course, to the financial or digital financial inclusion and digital economy. Basically, our vision and mission, I'm going to read them. However, all of our system designs, initiatives, and activities revolve around efficiency, safety, interoperability, and accessibility, with up to the international standards. Currently, we own 5 clearing systems, We have the ACH, the ACCU, the electronic bill presentment and payment, IFO-TIRCOM, also known as IFO-TIRCOM, the JOMO Pay, and Click. All of our clearing system basically settle at central bank money at the RTGS job. Can you go to the next slide, please? So here, I just wanted to give you the history of the payments infrastructure in Jordan. The issue was back in 2017, then JOMO Pay and IFO-TIRCOM 2014. The RTGS, the upgrade or the new RTGS to the ISO 222 was back in 2016, and 2017 we have the upgraded ACH to the ISO 222, and now currently is following is Click with it utilizes the ISO 222 standards. I wanted to just show you that Jordan actually has been trying to follow latest standards or latest international standards when it comes to payments to increase the integrity and enrich the data on the financial messaging standards. Worth mentioning that the ACCU and the JOMO Pay are currently being upgraded and hopefully will be launched very soon. The theme, can we go to next slide, please? So basically, the theme revolves around interoperability, cross-border remittances, instant payments, and inclusion. So JOMO Pay currently serves or provides multiple services to end users through the instant payment systems and cross-border remittances, where you have payment service providers actually integrating with exchange houses to offer cross-border remittances over wallets and JOMO Pay. We have QR, we have deployed the QR merchant payments, and we have P2P QR. We have ATM cash in and cash out currently deployed over the ISO 8583. And we have an associated card with the wallets along with the dispute management system. Can you go to the next slide, please? When you talk about inclusion, financial inclusion, basically, and with the COVID-19, we had seen multiple initiatives coming from the government with the G2P transfers, where the National Aid Fund basically was dispersed digitally through mobile wallets. This was all done this was done with the pandemic that occurred in 2020, and basically we saw an increase in the amount dispersed compared to cash versus digital. So the government dispersed all of its aids to individuals' mobile wallets. Also, there's we have other projects currently in Jordan where you have multiple NGOs such as the NUHCR, Mercy Corps, and other agencies that actually also dispersing financial aids and digitizing their financial payments to individuals and to community-based organizations through the digital wallets via JOMO Pay. Can you go to the next slide, please? So basically, Click is the newest instant payment system. Currently, we have 17 banks connected on Click. Click was mandated actually by Central Bank of Jordan, where all banks are requested to connect to the switch. Click utilizes the ISO 222 and provides multiple services, including the instant money transfer, the request to pay, the return payment, and we have also QR merchant payments over the ISO 222. We have the credit confirmation, we have PE confirmation, along with the dispute management system. Can you go to the next slide, please? So basically, when we talk about interoperability, because it's one of the themes, currently we are planning to upgrade JOMO Pay, and we're actually in the last stages of the upgrade that's supposed to be occurring by end of this month, where we will have two schemes running over one switch, which is the ISO 222. This will allow inter-scheme and intra-scheme interoperability, where banked people and unbanked will be able to transfer, request payments, return payments in one ecosystem. And this includes also the QR merchant payments, where actually we're going to be increasing the digital payments outlet acceptance over the ISO 222. And also we are going to provide the ATM cash in and cash out over the ISO 222. All of the services will be provided to all individuals, whether they are bank customers or mobile payment service provider customers. When we talk about regional interoperability, can we go to the next slide? As Mr. Manna said, actually there's been serious discussions and we're currently discussing different business and technical flows to integrate Buna instant payment system with Jordan instant payment system to support cross-border near-real-time transfers, enabling regional scheme interoperability. And I made it on time. This was basically me presenting what's currently happening. I'm ready to take questions.
Terrific. Thank you so much. We are going to take a couple of questions at the end of the session. Let's move to my last speaker, but least speaker, who is Mr. Alexandre Mouradian, who is the Vice Governor of Banque du Liban since June 2020. Of course, Mr. Alexandre Mouradian is overseeing a number of key departments and units at the Central Bank of Lebanon, including Information Technology Department, Payment System Department, Money Service Business Department, and the Retail Banking Unit. Actually, Alexandre's intervention is at the heart of our today's discussion. Why? Because he will be actually talking about the link between the regional payment or cross-border payment platform within the local payment system development and local platform, as you know, is an important proxy to improve cross-border payments. So, Alexandre, can you please maybe first tell us about the recent trends in Lebanon RTGS upgrades over the last few years, and the importance of linking or the linkage between the local and the regional payment platform, such as Buna, for instance, and how actually domestic payment infrastructure is a key in supporting cross-border payments that actually empower the integration of the Arab region to the global economy. And my second question in your intervention actually is, and given the progress that has been made by Lebanon Central Bank or Banque du Liban in payment system, we are really a bit curious to know your views about the future of the traditional instruments such as the ACH in the era of payment and stablecoins. So the floor is over to you, and after that we will take a couple of questions to all speakers. Alexandre, over to you, please.
Thank you, Habib. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the invite. I would also like to thank Mehdi, Bernard, Leila for their interventions. But prior to going to the main subject, I would like to give you a brief background on the environment we are currently living in Beirut, Lebanon. As you probably heard, we are in one of the deepest financial and economic meltdowns, and these are quite challenging times for us. Yet there are glimmers of hope, in those situations. And I've been honored or privileged to have both the payment systems and the IT departments under my responsibility. Actually, nowhere in my life I've spent cash as much as I'm doing right now, which probably contradicts with the conference theme today. But nevertheless, even in these circumstances, and throughout the 13, 14 months that I've been here, we have seen constant applications for licenses by e-wallet service providers, which is like a glimmer of hope for us for the future, because it tells us that no matter what the country's economic situation is in, the private sector is working, is vibrant, and bringing in change to the economy, and which as regulators, puts us in a position whereby we need to react to these demands by the private sector. And quite honestly, over the past year, there has been at least 12 applications for licenses. And going back to, let's say, in terms of our future payment systems, we are cognizant that there should be a renewed RTGS service adopted by the country to meet the demands of the different applications that currently are being processed at the Central Bank of Lebanon. We're also aware that the main principles of the renewed RTGS service are higher resilience, broader access, wider interoperability, improved user functionality, and strengthened end-to-end risk management. RTGS, as you probably know, you're the experts in this field. We as regulators, I'm learning them throughout this year. RTGS systems need to be flexible and interact with regional payment systems such as Buna, for example. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the AMF for Buna's initiative. We in Lebanon have a pilot of like half a dozen Lebanese banks participating in the application of Buna, and we're told that by the end of the year, they'll be ready to participate. So that's also good news for us, and hopefully for Buna. And in terms of bringing together the countries, even amidst this challenging environment that we are in currently. Of course, once we get into a better or renewed RTGS service, we are cognizant again and aware that instant payment system will revolutionize the B2B, C2C, and all the combinations of payments between business and consumer, even if you take into consideration government payments. Okay, we are also aware of that, and we are working for the adoption of new regulation. When it comes to currently where we are in Lebanon, we are at the final stages of rolling the government payment system by the end of this year again. This has been going on under very challenging environment, whether it's a global COVID. Moreover, we have the economic and financial problems in Lebanon, let alone everything that goes around in terms of limited access to work, etc. Nevertheless, the Central Bank of Lebanon has released 10-point checks and balances that governs the e-wallet service providers. We have set limits for e-wallet service providers and users, of course. There are, of course, the compliance, the KYC, international norms. We've been respected on that. We've had also direct supervision in terms of our payment system department overseeing all the statistical information governing the e-wallet users, okay? And within the 10-point regulatory framework, we've also had the commission basis. We have kept it to a low minimum of 0.5% so that we could encourage users in those challenging times, because we're aiming at the banked and non-banked clients, that's for or segment of the population. This is in short what we've done in Lebanon. I would like to take this also opportunity to thank all the teams and the personnel and the staff working in the payment systems and IT departments, which under those challenging circumstances have proven to be adamant in bringing change. For us, it's a great honor for us as a relatively new on board vice governors or central council body to see that our teams have been working hard to get to be on top of things, or to be on let's say on par with regional payment systems. And accordingly, this is it for me. I thank you for the invite, and hopefully we'll be in touch in the coming months and years.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Alexandre, for this great insights. I think it's really complementary all what my speakers today said about the cross-border payments, starting from Buna, securities, interoperabilities, and then the domestic payment system, and how this help and support improving cross-border payments, as I told you, as a proxy. A couple of questions that have been submitted to me right now. We have 10 minutes left. My first target today is to meet the timeline. So in 10 minutes, we need to conclude. So I have two questions to Mehdi, one question to Bernard, one question to Layana, and one question to Alexandre. Maximum 2 minutes, Mehdi, please. So the two questions for Mehdi, I got them from the audience. The first question, Mehdi, how many transactions can Buna settle in a day, or in a month, or in a year? And how fast the payment or the platform can process each transaction from end-to-end consumers? How to connect with a legacy system, as we have been talking, or ensure the interoperability? This is the first. Second is, can you give or more details about, the last POC dealing in interconnection between TIPS and Buna. Tell us more about this first experimentation between Buna instant payment and target to instant payment system, Mehdi. In less than 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Habib. Your first question is already 3 questions, but so I'll try to do my best. So regarding the volumes that Buna can process, so the important aspect here is that the system is totally scalable. So the technology that we are adopting will be allowing us to scale the system based on the volume that the growth that we'll be observing. So this is the reassuring aspect that we don't see a particular limit at this stage. And for the volume of cross-border, what we have already in place is largely sizable to absorb it today. In terms of speed, yeah, we are speaking about a matter of seconds end-to-end here. So as I already said, the proof of concept has allowed to do it cross-platform, even not just in Buna, in less than 15 seconds. This was building on the instant payment component, but RTGS is following the same speed. So it's a matter of seconds end-to-end. Regarding the proof of concept, so it has consisted in connecting the Buna instant payment solution to the TIPS, which is the European instant payment solution provided by the central bank. So it's operated by Banca d'Italia and provided by the ECB as a service. And this interconnection has been done in conditions that were as real as possible, meaning that we have used the real network between the 2 platforms. That was the SWIFT network. And we have also involved 2 banks from the 2 ends, Intesa San Paolo on the European side and Jordan Ahli Bank on the Buna side. And the full loop processed end-to-end again with from one bank to another with the confirmation sent from the receiving bank to the originating bank in less than 15 seconds. In case you are more interested, in case you are interested in more information, the academic paper detailing all the technicalities of this experiment is expected to be shared soon, and it should be available on both websites, so the one of Banca d'Italia and our website as well.
Thank you so much, Mehdi. Bernard, one question, less than 2 minutes. Do you think that a central security depository like a Euroclear bank should move to DLT technology, and when do you think that this could be done?
Okay, that's the question, difficult to answer in 2 minutes, but certainly I think one of the concerns of a central security depository, it's, as the name indicates, it's central. So this is going, it's a central point, and the market, from a risk point of view, they hate to have to face a single point, potentially a single point of failure. So I think that's where the DLT technology can be very interested, because it's a blockchain ledger, so it records all the transactions that operates on the platform on different nodes. But at the end of the day, even if the ledgers is auditable, traceable in terms of tokenized of securities, life cycle, etc., I think, and also the other merits of the DLT is the data are automatically replicated and disseminated across the nodes. So by definition, I would say the blockchain, thanks to the data dissemination concept, do offer a higher level of resilience than a central security depository. But here, let's pay attention, because at the end of the day, you have to give permission to those who can operate there. And then at the end of the day, you're going back always to the same. You're going back to the central bank, you're going back to the CSD. So that defeats a bit the purpose of the open architectures and the decentralized finance that a DLT can offer. I would just add to say that for me, CSDs are looking at DLTs, for sure. They're probably looking at what can be used in terms to improve the processes. And I think one of them is certainly the securities pre-issuances. So we mentioned that already, all the workflows, but also on the collateral management. How can you tokenize assets that you don't have in the central security depository, but they sit elsewhere in the global market? But then with the token, you can use that one in terms of collateral management in the collateral management system. So I think that's where the DLT could be easily deployed, and quite rapidly, I would say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bernard. Actually, I think we may need another event to talk about DLT, and but very quickly, I have 5 minutes left. left. Sorry, one more question, Lana. You have been talking about the interoperability. Actually, what you have said is quite interesting, honestly. You may elaborate a little bit about the prospect in connecting Click with Buna and how much such a project can improve your ability in serving better your clients in Jordan when it comes to the displaced person, when it comes to the remittances, when it comes to the financial inclusion, how JOPAC is supporting financial inclusion, of course, linking both Buna and Click and JOPAC. Please, in less than 1 minute.
1 minute, okay, that's hard to do. So basically, currently the discussions around the technical and business flow revolve around reducing the costs of connecting to other banks. So if Click as a switch will be having around 30 participants connected to it. So we're thinking of actually connecting both switches together rather than just requesting all banks or all banks to connect to both switches. So the current implementation or the current flows that are currently being discussed is connecting both switches together, which basically will enable all customers onboarded on Click or JomoPay to interact or to transact for cross-border remittances. And I wish to disclose more information because the final design has not been done and agreed on with Buna team.
It's okay. Thank you so much. Alexander, last question I think is a key question because you are a policymaker and you are a central banker. And actually, you know, in this era of technology, maybe there is risks of greater financial exclusion because maybe those, people without great technology literacy or access to technology, or maybe even provided from the devices or themselves of the electricity or the infrastructure. In such particular circumstances, what do you think benefits, from the central bank perspective, benefits does private sector innovation bring into the table? And what could be, or what should be, the role of central bank in this era?
Thank you, Habib. That's actually a very relevant question. You know, as I said, during those 12, 14 months that we've been here, we have had little time except managing the crisis, you know, because of the absence of a functioning government. And as I said earlier, it was quite interesting to see those private sector applications coming in for licenses for e-wallet service providers. And you know, it's very amazing where you tend to react to those applications. You say, wow, in those circumstances, you have the private sector thinking of such solutions for the future, you know, and then you become reactive to them instead of being proactive. Nevertheless, the situation is such that we have more priorities in terms of monetary policy making, extension of subsidy to the country in the absence of a functioning government. We've had no government for the past 13 months. We just had a new one. So the role of the private sector is key, I believe. And I must admit, we are learning from them as much as they're looking at us in terms of passing regulation. So this is our message as central bank regulators.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alexander. Actually, it's 6 p.m. Abu Dhabi time. We reached we did well. We met the time online, actually. Let me thank you all, all speakers, for the outstanding, honest discussion. And I look forward to another opportunity to have much more time to talk more about all those important topics and issues. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Habib.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good job.